people have an encounter with you, and every encounter they have of you, there's a purpose in that encounter.
Yeah.
Music is the one thing that I feel can reach where I can't.
Yeah. What is a soul? And how do we heal the soul? What is a soul?
I always look at the soul as a bank. Worship is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
So you wake up every day and you're committed to the cause. Because remember, if you're called, whether you feel like it or not is irrelevant.
Yeah.
And it's very selfish to say you're living for yourself. It's a very selfish way to think about life, where you're saying you're living for yourself. You're not. Temptation is everywhere, and it's easily accessible. Hi everyone, my name is Karabo Mogane. I'm a musician, and this is my inside story.
Karabo, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So is there anything that happened on your way here? Any encounter, something that stood out?
Not really. Outside of getting a video call from my daughter, because when I left the house, she was actually sleeping.
Yeah.
And so her mom video called me to say she wants to talk to you. Because normally before I leave home, I'll normally tell her that I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Regardless of the time. Because most times I leave like very early. So most times I'll tell her, give her a hug, give her a kiss, walk out of the house. So she knows that I'm going.
Yeah.
But I'm going to come back.
Yeah.
So
you traumatized her, man.
This morning,
she's like, where's my dad?
I'm waking up like, where's this guy?
Yeah.
He's not here. So I want to talk to him now. So after we spoke, she was good. She was laughing. She was excited. So yeah, I mean, that was my highlight, definitely. Yeah.
I love that so much. How's the dynamic like in the house, Nje? Your relationship with God, your wife, your children? How do you balance everything that you have to do as a musician, a worshiper as well? You know? Just a whole,
Yeah, I don't know. Like these portfolios that God has thrown at me, each one deserves, full attention. And each portfolio deserves, for me to be intentional about each one. So I'm gonna try and break it down for each. So and how I handle each one. With my wife, the one thing that keeps us going is, outside of being intentional and being committed, it's also being of service to one another. So my rule of thumb is, be what you want the next person to be. So if you want me to make you coffee every morning, make coffee for me in the morning. Because then it's easy for me to respond to that. Because sometimes it's difficult to take what a person is saying, but you can take what a person is doing. Because it's your eyes are literally taking pictures of this happening every single day. So other people learn better, not necessarily what you say, but more what you do. So I always try to be of service to my wife. I'm a sucker for hugs and kisses. I'm a sucker for just being embraced, being loved. So because I am that person, I exercise that every day. So I'll never walk out of the house without giving my wife a hug or giving her a kiss. When I come back, and to the next person, it might be a routine, but for me, I enjoy it. Like, as much as I enjoy music, I enjoy that. Yeah, like that's how far, and that's why even family that is close to me, so like my sisters, my cousins, I'm a hugger and a kisser. So if I bump into you and you're my cousin or you're my sister, or the ladies, of course, I'll give them a hug, I'll give them a kiss. That's my love language. That's me. And many of them don't find it weird because they know that's who I am. But also I don't go around doing it to everybody.
Otherwise it becomes a little bit
weird.
Then
it becomes a bit weird. So that's just who I am. So with my wife, that's being intentional, being of service, to her, and vice versa. She's being of service to me. And just finding that pocket. And then my child, man, it's just, I think for me, kids learn more from what they see. So when she sees me walk in, hug her mom, kiss her mom, maybe come back, I've bought her flowers, or come back, I've got, so she sees that, and she then looks at me and thinks to herself, this is the kind of man that I want to marry, or that I want to fall in love with one day. So, and vice versa, when she looks at how her mom responds, she's like, this is how I want to respond to the love that I am receiving from my partner, you know. So that's literally what it is. So for me, I'm always trying to teach her visually, you know, because right now that's what she understands anyway. I mean, she's only one, you know. So I mean, even when she is speaking and she's much older, I will continue that because she will take more from that than what I say.
Oh, that's really beautiful. Would you say it's like that because you saw it from your mom and dad?
Of course. I mean, you know, the one time we went home, and it's not long. I mean, probably like last year sometime, we went home with my wife, and we got there. You know, I found my dad washing dishes.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
When was this? Because you just told me that your dad is 75
He's
years
75.
old.
This was last year.
Shucks.
Last year. So got into the house, I found him washing dishes.
Yeah.
I think mom had just done, they'd already eaten and, you know, and then she had cooked.
Yeah.
And then he's washing the dishes because they live together now. Nobody else is there. Me being the last born, obviously, then there's no one else left.
Yeah.
So they live together now. So he was washing dishes. And then I walked in there and I thought to myself, wow, you know, I mean, as old as they are, you know, and having like seen this happen over time, it makes it easy for me to go into the kitchen and wash dishes for my wife.
Yeah.
Because my dad does it, you know, and it doesn't make you less of a man, you know, and I don't feel like less of a man, you know, even when there are events, you know, in the family. I know most times they're like, you know, we don't want X, Y, and Z, you know. And I know culturally it's just what it is, you know. But my dad, being that kind of a man, you know, allowed me to not look at that and find it weird, but looked at it and actually understood that this is me assisting my wife, you know. And I mean, even washing the baby, you know, I know to change a diaper. I know
really? How to wash the baby.
How to wash the baby. I know how to wash my baby's clothes.
With your hands?
With my hands, yeah. With my hands,
Really?
yeah. I mean, when my wife came out of hospital, you know, there are certain things that she couldn't do.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have a nanny immediately because we were struggling to find. Because every single nanny that we had was just, I mean, the one time we had a nanny, she was quite rough. Just like, no, you know. So we stayed for almost 8 months without a nanny because we were struggling to find the right person. So certain things, I could be coming back from a gig, you know, and my wife would sleep. I would then take over, you know. So we would assist each other. So when I say that we raised this baby from zero to
Yourselves.
know, like we really took it upon ourselves to raise. I mean, we only got a nanny I think 9 months into it, you know.
Almost a year.
Almost a year, yeah.
But how difficult was that?
It's very difficult because
did it affect your marriage or the dynamics?
Time management, sorry?
Did it affect your marriage or the dynamics?
Because we're working together and we communicated well, you know. If ever my wife was feeling tired, she would say, I'm feeling tired, I just need to go and lie down. Can you please take over? Or take over, you know. And also I would tell her of my plans and my things ahead of time so that even when, you know, I have to do something, I'm not telling her in the moment. I've given her an opportunity to plan. So that if I'm not around for 2 days because I'm going away because of work, she knows that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, my husband's not around. So in those 3 days, I need to condition myself that I'll be taking care of the baby. And then there are moments where she would want to meet friends, you know, and I would say, go, stay with the baby.
That's so beautiful.
You know, I would stay with the baby, change the diaper, make sure she's fed, make sure that she sleeps enough, you know. So that also gave me time to bond with the baby and also bond with her, you know. And I think as a family unit, I know that back in the day, you had so many people that you had access to that you could give the baby over to. But I mean, living in Johannesburg, it's very difficult. You know, it's not like your mother lives down the road or up the road. And, you know, your sister. I mean, I've got siblings here, but they don't live close. They live like I need to call and be like, can I please drop the baby off on Thursday? I've got this thing, you know. And then they'll tell me, no, it's fine. You can. Oh, we're not available. Then you need to have an alternative. You know. And that's where friends come into play, and friends that you trust, of course, because you won't give your child to anybody.
To just anybody.
You know. So yeah.
So let's get into your life as a worshiper. What sort of challenges do you think worship has helped you through?
Ah, man. I think I look at worship as a lifestyle. It's an everyday thing, you know, and it's not a conditional thing. It's an unconditional thing. You know, you do it in spite of, not because of, you know, because I think most times we want to do it because
Yeah.
You know, do I stand to benefit? You know, whether I benefit from it or not is irrelevant.
Yeah.
You know, is it the right thing to do? Then I must do it. You know, and I think most times we want to do it because there's something that we stand to benefit. You know, God protects us every day whether He feels like it or not. You know, God gives us every day whether He feels like it or not. You know, and we don't protect Him. We don't give Him. You know, so for that reason, why would I not want to have a posture of worship every single day?
Yeah.
You know, because people have an encounter with you, and every encounter they have of you, there's a purpose in that encounter.
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence. You know, they meeting you because there is something that needs to happen in that moment between you and them and God.
Yeah.
You know, yes, we are spiritual beings, of course. You know, and whatever we transfer, it depends on where we're feeding from. What are you eating? Because whatever you eat is what is going to come out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever you're taking in is what's going to come out. So if I spend a lot of time watching TV, whatever I'm saying will sound and will come out like TV.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm invested in the word, whatever I say and do will come out from the word. You know, you are what you eat, what you drink, what you see, what you know, and that's true in all levels. You know, so for me, worship is a lifestyle every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe that's why you music sounds the way it does.
You know what I mean?
Not maybe.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Look, I mean,
back.
it's, you know, it's love, music and all, but you can feel the sincerity in it, you know, and the soul in it, and that's very intentional. I mean, I always say to people who listen to my music is that you may forget the lyrics, you may forget a heck of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to ever forget how I make you feel when you're listening to the music.
I love that.
You know, so I want to speak to your soul, you know, and that is very intentional. And that's why I pray for every song I write.
Yeah.
You know, I don't just walk into the studio and be like, well, we're here now. You know,
let's do it.
Let's do it. You know, I pray about it. I'm like, God, I'm writing the song.
Yeah.
You know, there's somebody who needs to hear it. So, you know, even if it's five people that are going to get some sort of healing from this particular song, then so be it. But this is a song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how intentional are you with healing through your music?
Very intentional.
Yeah.
Very intentional. I mean, life in itself is difficult. You know, there's so many things that we deal with on a daily. You know, so music is the one thing that I feel can reach where I can't.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why sometimes you could be listening to an album and you can play it over and over and not get tired of it. Is because there's something that the album is doing to you, the music and what is being said, you know, that is moving you to a point of healing.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm very intentional about that. And for me, I write music for people who are married and people that are in relationships, just to remind them, you know, of how beautiful this thing we call love is. You know, and I know that, you know, love can go both ways.
Yeah.
But I choose to focus more on this side.
Yeah.
You know, where, you know, there's happiness, there's joy, you know,
Yeah.
and also I do write for those, you know, that need healing, like, you know, who've gone through heartbreak and stuff. I do write, but I'm very intentional in making sure that when you walk away after listening to whatever song that you are listening to, something in your life, you know, there's a change, there's a shift, you're in a better place.
Yeah. Talking about the soul, what is the soul, and how do we heal the soul? What is the soul?
Soul is so there's the body, there's a soul, there's a spirit.
Yeah.
But these are one.
Yeah.
You know, and they all coexist.
Yeah.
You know, like how the Son, the Spirit, and the Father.
And the Father.
You know, so this is where it's at as well. You know, and I always look at the soul as a bank. You know, a
beautiful.
bank,
I love
a
that
bank
analogy.
where you're constantly, you know, putting in, investing, you know, these memories, these times with people, you know, times with yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of people run away from spending time with self. You know, and we always want to be within company. We want to be, you know,
Sure.
you always want to have people around.
Yeah.
You never want to sit with self,
Yeah.
because it's hard to sit with self.
Yeah.
Because when you're sitting with self, a lot is revealed when you're sitting with self, you know, about yourself. And some of the things that are revealed you don't like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
so it's important to sit with self, because there's an introspection that happens in the soul that needs for you to sit with it, deal with it, so that you can move from it.
Shucks, I love
You
that
know?
so much, because essentially you're saying the way to heal the soul is to be with yourself and introspect.
Introspection. Very, very important.
Shucks, thank you so much. Let's go a little bit back to your childhood. What's the name of the street you grew up on? What's your earliest childhood memory? You know?
Jeez, so I grew up in Nelspruit,
Yeah,
and there's a street called Acacia
yeah.
Street, in an area called West Acres, not far from the rugby stadium. So that's where we would go and watch rugby games.
Yeah.
Before they built in Bombela Stadium,
Yeah.
there was a stadium just not far from, like literally a street away from our home.
Yeah.
You know, where rugby games were played. So we would go there and watch rugby. And I think I fell in love with rugby because of that, because I was so close.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, where are you going this weekend? Watch some rugby. You
Yeah.
know, so that's literally what it was. You know, so I that's where I grew up, and you know, I had a lot of friends in the same street. You know, white friends, and some, you know, friends from school as well, you know, who lived in the area, not necessarily in the same street, but in the area. So we would always meet up, and we would go to the mall together, you know, because at the time there was only one mall in Nelspruit. And we would, over weekends, go there, watch movies. You know, your parents would give you 50 Rand. And you just
I remember those days,
"Yo,"
yeah.
You know, and you'd go and watch a movie, you know, enough to watch a movie and have a meal, come back home, you know what I mean? And I remember even when, you know, we started dating, you know, see someone nice, like, hey, you know, now you got 50 Rand, remember? So now you're like, one must die, you know, you can't have a meal, but you can buy popcorn, watch a movie, both of you, you know, and then you take her out.
And wasn't it amazing how you could buy tickets, buy popcorn, and watch a movie with 50 Rand?
With 50 Rand. You can't do that today.
No,
can't do that today.
The tickets are 150.
No, even more.
Even more now?
No, nowadays even more.
Are you serious?
Yeah. No, nowadays you can
I haven't been in a while.
spend a good 500 Rand just getting tickets, getting popcorn and the sweets and the drinks that they have there, and actually paying for the actual movie.
Yeah, of course. The whole thing is 500, but how much is the ticket now?
The ticket,
itself?
probably 200 and something. Or maybe 180, 190, 200. I'm telling you. Like, cinema is expensive, you know, and that's why people are opting just like, I'll wait for it to get on the circuit, you know. I don't need to go and watch it there. I'll just watch it at home. Yeah. But I mean, I think it's taking away from the experience of, you know, cinema. I mean, there's something about it that's just, you know, I mean, watching it at home is great and all, you know, even if you got surround sound for those that do, great for you, you know, but it's nice to go out.
Yeah, you need,
you know, to go out, hold hands, you know, buy the cool drink, the popcorn, get there and sit and just watch and just enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah, man. In your journey from when you were little, do you remember anything happening during your childhood that affected you mentally? Something really that changed the way you view life as a young kid?
So, I mean, growing up, I was a very, what's this word I'm looking for? I was a very...
Confident,
yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Very confident somebody, you know, and I was that kid. Every single time visitors would come over, you know, they were like, Karabo, come, sing for them, come, you know, come dance, you know. You get there, you know, confidently, and you would dance and you would sing, you know, and the beauty about it is that these people would let you do it. You know, there was somebody sitting there, you know, having a pen and a paper to say, hey, you're not dancing it the right way, you're not singing the right way, you know. They just appreciated the entertainment. Oh, this kid is so brave, he's so, you know, he's out there, he's, you know, he's just expressing himself, and we just enjoying, you know, watching him do what he does, you know. And I think that's where my love for entertainment started as well, you know. And then, I mean, from there, then confidence obviously grew. And then you get to school, then you meet different characters, and people who look at you and they see you shining bright like a diamond, and they feel like you're too
shining
bright.
too bright, yeah.
Too bright, I mean, we're good with your bright, but that's just too bright, Can you just dim it down a little bit, know? It's a bit too much, and I mean, I had this guy that, was bullying me.
Yeah.
But no, it was just not me. But I mean, many other kids as well were bullied by the very same individual. But we're cool now. And let me
okay,
express
that's
that.
Good.
We're
Fruits
good
of
now.
the spirit.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're good now. We forgive, and we move on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I did get into a fight with him, and that day, I think I was carrying every other kid that got bullied by this guy with me.
Yeah.
So I wasn't coming alone. Like I literally just went and picked all of them and I put them on my shoulder and I said, today is the day.
Yeah.
And I think that day he caught me on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
I was holding my lunchbox, just minding my own business. And then he came and he just decided that he was going to grab it, and he grabbed it. Fortunately, my other hand was free.
Yeah.
And the rest
and
is
you
history.
went in.
Yeah, the rest is history.
I know how that feels like, because I have a similar experience, but I couldn't do anything. I threw that person down with all that anger, and then I just sat there on top of them, and they couldn't get up. It's a funny story, actually. It's a funny story because I was too scared to hit them, because I've always been told, you don't hit anyone.
No, of course.
You know what I mean?
But I mean, certain moments demand for you to stand up for yourself, and remember, I wasn't fighting because I hate the person.
Yeah.
I just hated what he was doing.
Yeah.
I didn't hate him. I had nothing against him. I had everything to do with how and what he was doing. I mean, even now when we have conversations, it'll always be, I don't like what you're doing. I like you, just don't like what you're doing. So I had to learn to separate the two, because I think as people sometimes we want to just blanket the person, just say this is who he is. No, that's not who he is. That's who he chooses to be, not who he is.
I love that so much.
Not who he is. And that's why sometimes we just crucify people. And remember, sometimes it happens because of what they faced in life and some of the things that they dealt with. Maybe at home, the father was abusive to the mother, or the mother was abusive to the father, And sometimes you meet women who are not really great with their tongue, but where did they learn that? Who raised them? Because that's also very important. People who were raised without parents, people who were raised without fathers, people who were raised without mothers, the family unit is the one thing that the devil will always fight to break, because he knows that if there's a pieces missing, then the person grows up with those pieces missing, and how they respond to life, they respond in a very narrow way, right? Because that's all they know. So even when you're coming, from a holistic point of view,
they come with precarity.
They can't receive it, and not because it's not good to receive it, but because they don't understand it. They don't get it. No matter how many times you may try and reiterate and try and convince them, they don't see it. Because it's something that they're just not accustomed to.
I love that so much. You sound like such a surrendered person. I'm wondering, has it always been that way, or are there idols in your life that you had to uproot, or maybe still facing? And what are they? And
definitely. Yeah. I mean, this is, I'm saying, like I said earlier, worship is a lifestyle. So you wake up every day and you're committed to the cause. Because remember, if you're called, whether you feel like it or not is irrelevant. So you are committed to the cause, and you even the things that draw you to sin, you do your level best to make sure that you pull yourself away from those things, because you understand that your posture has to be in a way that when God is looking at you, He's able to receive you, but not only him, but even those around you. Because I know that a lot of people will say, but I mean, I don't do X, Y, and Z because I'm trying to please people. It's not necessarily about doing it because you're trying to please people, but because it's the right thing to do. Can we start there? Is it right? Sure. Should I do it? Yes. Because it's the right thing to do. Doing the right thing is hard because it needs for you to apply yourself. But doing wrong is easy because it's in your nature.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy, you know.
Yeah.
It's easy. You know, like sinning, guys, it's easy.
Sin
And it's
is
nice.
easy.
And it's nice because your body responds so easily to it, right? But having to counter
Yeah.
and do the exact opposite of what you're feeling, that's hard.
Yeah, it's hard.
Because it demands for you to now say, yes, I want to eat those chips. But because I want to lose this weight,
Yeah.
I will not eat those chips.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
You know, and then my prayer every day to God is, God, give me, you know, self-control. Give me discipline.
Yeah.
Because when you're disciplined, regardless of what's happening, you stick to your guns, you stick to your cause.
Yeah.
You know, and discipline also it's also aligned to your values as a person.
Yeah.
You know, when certain things are thrown at you, I mean, we in the industry, you know, there are a lot of things that can be thrown at you, you know, that everybody else is doing, and where it's acceptable to do certain things, you know, and that's now your opportunity. Because God will put you there. Be like, everybody else here is smoking this thing. Don't you want to smoke it as well, you know?
Yeah.
And now obviously you see even the coolest, even the person that you look up to is doing it. You're like, yo, Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
You know, because you also want to fit in.
Yeah.
You know? And then God puts you there intentionally because He wants you to be there so that you are the one who is not following the crowd. You go in the other direction. And trust me, in that moment you're unpopular. But when you leave, they will respect you for it.
That's
And
true.
they'll remember you for it, you know? Yeah, no. You know, Karabo said no, hey?
Yeah.
I can't believe it. He said no. No, you said he's not going to do it. Really? Yeah. Bro, like we were all there. And he just flat out said no.
Yeah.
And at first we thought he was joking.
Yeah.
But he was serious. And that's and remember, people in the moment they're shocked to see you respond like that. But in the long run they'll respect you for it.
Yeah, they respect
And
you.
even when they do these things, they know who not to call.
Exactly. And even when they want advice with a certain thing and they've tired of that life or this life and like, okay, I
They
know who to call. I'm calling
You know, because
Karabo.
if we're all doing it,
Yeah.
who's supposed to change that narrative?
Yeah.
You know, who's supposed to change that narrative? You know, and it's very selfish to say you're living for yourself. It's a very selfish way to think about life, where you're saying you're living for yourself. You're not. You're not called for yourself. I don't write music for me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people wouldn't be listening to the music that I make. Right?
Definitely.
I write music for the people. This gift is not mine. It's a gift that is given to me for God's people.
Yeah.
You know, so that's literally where it's at. So for me, there are a lot of things that I had to deal with, and then certain muscles that I had to, you know, grow in order for me to withstand temptation that we face on a daily. And unfortunately, we live in a society where temptation is everywhere, you know, and it's easily accessible. You know, I mean, I'll make an example, like you're on Instagram. How many people are DMing me, asking for my number, asking to meet up, asking to, you know, and as a married somebody, you know, and who is a Christian,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
posture,
Yeah.
you know, where you now need to, because remember, even if you are to agree to whatever it is that people are asking for, it's temporary. And and sin is nice. It's short. It's like, you know, 2 minutes, you know, you have the coffee, you know, you meet up, you kiss, you do whatever you need to do, then you feel guilty.
Then
You know, and now
And
you're walking out,
shame.
and now you're walking out of this guilt. And remember, what sin does, it moves you further and further away from God.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the idea is that you want to get closer.
Yeah.
Because the closer you are to Him, the more you are Him. But the further you are away from Him, the more you are not Him. Right? Because if He says, I made you in my image,
Yeah.
it means that you are Him.
Yeah.
Right? So if you are sinning, you are literally shifting. And that's why it's so difficult. If you realize when you've sinned, it's difficult to pray.
Exactly. It's difficult to come back to the Father.
You're just like, hey, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
You know? So, but I look at somebody in the Bible, somebody like David, man. For me, that's my guy, man. You know, he, regardless of what may be happening in his life, he knew his position with God. And that's why God kept on saying, this is the man after my own heart. Because regardless of what he may have done,
He was a great repenter.
He was always ready to repent. Like, God, look, hey, you know, I messed up. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, but sometimes as Christians, we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because we feel like whatever we've done is too much. But here's another flip to the coin.
Yeah.
Is that because we've been offered grace, people then use that as an opportunity to sin, not realizing that grace is not for that. Grace is not given for you as an opportunity for you to sin. It's given so that you understand that regardless of what you may have done, and done past tense,
Yeah.
not present, past. So you've recognized, I've done this thing, it's wrong. And God is saying, I have called you to show you that whatever you're doing is wrong.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I want you to be.
Yeah.
And grace says, we have forgotten that.
Yeah.
We are here, we are moving forward. But we as Christians want to use it. But it's okay if I just do this thing. Anyway, I can pray, and God will forgive me for it.
And that's really wrong. That's really wrong.
It's really wrong, yeah.
It's really wrong because that's what we end up treating our relationship with God as a transactional relationship. And we're not supposed to do that. I want to talk a bit about your music now because you dropped so many amazing things. We talked about forgiveness, we talked about confidence, but I feel like our time was short. Like I would really love to have you again to sort of just, dive into other.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, man, I think for me that the journey of music is, when given the opportunity to do what I do.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, it's not for me. It never was. And I think a lot of people take their gifts and think it's for them. And that's why the story in the Bible where God gives these servants the gifts. One gives one, the other two, the
parable
of the talents. And the others multiply. And then the one takes it and hid it.
Yeah.
And God says, these are the ones whom I recognize. When you chose to take the gift and not multiply it.
You evil.
You understand? So the gift is not for you, it's for the people. So even the music that I make, when I get in the studio, I pray and say, God, I'm going to release this music. I'm going to write what I'm doing. It's not about me, it's about you. And you are the one who is also giving me the platform to do what I do. It could have been anybody else. There are people who are probably far more talented than I.
Yeah.
Right? But God is saying, but I want you.
Yeah.
To take my word and, give it to the people. So for me, that's literally where it is. And it's a journey where I am learning, I am growing.
Yeah.
But also staying true to myself. I mean, right now I am an independent artist. I have my own record label.
Yeah.
Named it after my daughter, Azania Records. Yeah, Azania Records. Yeah. So I mean, maybe it's been. I mean, I've been in the industry for 10 years now.
Yeah.
So this is my 10th year, and I'm trying. I want to do something special this year as well. Just to celebrate that.
The 10th year anniversary. We're excited.
So when I do, put it all out, guys, I'll definitely invite you guys. You guys can come through and just come and enjoy some good music with friends.
I love music. I like to dance as well.
Oh,
but
lovely.
I can't dance.
I don't know, and it's okay. It's okay. I mean, God is a gracious somebody. He gives us according to. According to. Yeah.
Okay, we're excited. We're looking forward to it.
No, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Anything we should be looking out to anytime soon? I know we're talking about the music. We're excited.
Yeah. So look, I have a lot of things that I'm passionate about. I mean, one thing that I'm very passionate about is conversations with men. I mean, recently I lost a dear brother of mine, my cousin Ebenezer Mogane, to suicide. And depression. So
sorry about that.
Yeah, so I'm very, very intentional about that, and it's something that God has been speaking to me about, to say, dude, you need to open a platform where you can have conversations with men, and in the different walks of life. And maybe me being here today, having this conversation with you guys will also give me the courage to start, and not hold back, because I think the fear of the unknown is what kills many dreams or many things, So
Many ideas,
of course. I mean, that's why people always say that the richest place in the world is the graveyard, because people died with things, So I would love to open a platform where I talk to men, about just life in general, and not just relationships, but just what men have to deal with every single day. I mean, even if I make an example, I mean, as a man, you are not only dealing with you being a father, or you dealing with you being a brother, or you dealing with you being a man who is working. There are so many portfolios that you carry as a man, and that need your undivided attention daily. Whether you like it or not. You have to show up, and showing up every day is not easy.
It's not.
Because there are days where I honestly just want to shut down and just do absolutely nothing. But life demands for me as a man to come out. And I think as men, most times we don't regulate ourselves. We don't get a chance to sit down and deal with things as and when they happen. And most times when eventually we've given ourselves the opportunity to do it, we're carrying so much. And that's why sometimes when we're addressing issues, it comes across as very aggressive.
Because it's being piled up.
Because it's piled up. So the aggression comes from the fact that there's so much. And all it took is for you as my wife to say, "Patimoto," and then it's like, "Yeah, what about the car?" And then it's like But I am responding from everything else. I'm not responding just about the car that you're talking about. I'm responding to all of
everything
else. Because you're not
and
only
the tone that one was delivered. This tone reminds me of the previous thing.
And
2 months ago, and you're like.
And as men, most times we let things slide. Because I think another thing that makes it difficult is that as men, most times we don't like confrontation. Or we don't like being confronted. And let me not say we don't like it. We just don't know how to deal with it at times. And we don't know how to articulate ourselves as well as women do. You guys are good at it, man. You guys are like birthed into it,
Yeah, we talk so much.
Yeah, man. You guys, I mean, and I think most times where you find that women will live longer it's because you guys have outlets. Yo, chum, ours. As guys, we don't sit and talk like that.
You guys should start doing that. I'm excited about this conversation, actually, about this platform that you're going into, because you guys need to do that. I'd really love it if you guys have more words.
No, we do.
When I have 50 words, have 45.
I mean, it's a typical example. If we go to an event, right? We attended the same event. You and I will attend the same event. When we come back to explain to the person, how was the event? For me, it's 2 words, man. It's a great event. It was nice. The music was good. For you want to talk about the entrance. I walked in.
Exactly. And the detail. And the detail.
So
and the detail of that conversation. And the tone that came
And my wife gets irritated. Dude, tell me, who was there? What was happening? How was the sound? Hi,
You're not saying anything in this conversation. It's not about you.
But that's just how we are as men. And for me, if I tell you, so for example, if I come home and I say Sydney got engaged, that's it. That's the conversation. Sydney.
No.
And then for you, it's like,
do you think
how did he get engaged?
Yes. Do you think that you guys don't have that, you don't go into detail because you don't have the words for it? You don't know how to name your emotions. You don't know how to name things. Or you just wired that way?
We just wired that way. We are, for us, it's practical, straightforward. It's the to-do list, I was there, Sydney got engaged.
Yeah.
That's it. For you, it's everything.
Yes.
From where it started, which knee did he use? When he put
Karabo, stop it.
You know what I mean? For us, it's just Sydney got engaged. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Sydney got engaged.
No, that's boring. You have to paint the picture.
And
you're a storyteller as well, so you should understand.
But it's different. It's different. When I'm writing music, I have to get into this space where I am putting together words, and putting melody to words, right? But with this is everyday life.
I get it.
Look, I'm trying, my wife, because I know she's a very detailed somebody. So I'll try, and just add maybe, a few more sentences to make it more interesting. But it's just not who we are. And
I understand that. Start, and
Yeah.
then my husband will be your first guest, okay?
that would be lovely. That would be lovely. That would be great. That would be great. I'm gonna hold you to that.
Well, he's right here.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And thank you that you guys have a platform like this, just to spread the word,
Yeah.
of God and touching people's lives in the way that you do. That is beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I learned a lot. I've grown. I hope you guys have too. Please do like, comment, share. Tell us what you think of the conversation. From me and my wonderful guest is bye for now.